Hello everyone, hope you're having a great day today. Today we are talking about periodization of exercise. This is chapter 14, part 3. So periodization is a concept that is applied in the design of workouts used in an exercise program. Periodization refers to systematic variation in acute program variables such as the prescribed volume and intensity during different phases of a resistance program. A traditional linear periodization program contains 4 phases. First, there's a hypertrophy phase consisting of high volume and short rest periods. Then there's a strength and power phase, which consists of reduced volume but increased load and rest periods. And then you have a peaking phase consisting of low volume but high load and longer rest periods. This would be when you're peaking for your competition. And then the recovery phase, which consists of low volume and load. Periodization acts as a way to systematically vary the workout over time. Incorporating periodization into the training program systematically varies the acute program variables, which exposes muscles to different stimuli, leading to greater muscular adaptation and performance. In addition, rest is encouraged at different points in the training program, which allows for appropriate recovery and the prevention of both short and long-term overtraining. Another important benefit to periodization is that it can reduce the potential boredom found with repeating the same resistance exercise program over and over, which may improve program adherence. Many different models for periodization have been developed. Thus, the model to be used should be selected on the basis of the needs and desires of the client. The terms micro, meso, and macro cycle refer to the time course of the different phases of periodization. The macro cycle is the largest training cycle time frame. A common example of a macro cycle is a calendar year, and all phases are included in this cycle. A mesocycle, on the other hand, refers to the next smaller group of training cycles that make up the macro cycle. Usually there are about 4 to 6 of these in a year. And finally, the microcycle is the smallest component, which usually ranges in time from 1 to 4 weeks and is typically dedicated to one type of workout variable in that phase, such as high volume, low intensity power. The use of periodized resistance training has been shown to be superior to constant training methods. Periodized training involves the planned variation in the intensity of exercises and in the volume of a workout. Typically, one periodizes large muscle group exercises. However, periodization schemes can be created for smaller muscle groups as well. Although opinions among trainers differ regarding the number and time course of the cycles that are most effective, a primary theory suggests that a greater variation in the training stimulus will produce a greater overall adaptation in the body. This idea has led to different variations in the classic periodization model. In general, there are 2 basic types that have been developed for maximal strength development: linear and non-linear periodized protocols. And here you can see this is an example of a traditional American-style periodization schedule. You have your 4 goals of hypertrophy, maximal strength and power, peak, and recovery. And with that, looking at the repetitions, the sets, the rest, and load and volume associated with that. So with hypertrophy, you're going to go for high reps and high sets. Your rest periods are going to be fairly short with a low load, and your volume is fairly high and moderate. If you're looking at maximal strength and power, your repetitions are going to be moderate to low, 3 to 5 sets. Your repetitions are going to be low moderate to low, as well as your sets. And your rest period is going to be moderate as well, along with your volume and your load. Peak, on the other hand, this is getting close to your competition time, and you want for your athletes to be at the top of their game. And so the repetitions are going to be fairly low, the sets are going to be low, and the rest is going to be longer than usual. The load is going to be very high. You want for them to still be, again, peaking with strength as well as power, and the volume is going to be fairly low as well. And the recovery as a goal, you really want the repetitions to be moderate sets as well as rest. and the load and volume are going to be fairly low as well. So linear periodization is, although there are some variations within each microcycle, 1 to 4 weeks, their general trend for the 16-week program is a steady linear increase in the intensity of the training program. Microcycle 5 is a 2-week active rest period in which no lifting is done or only a very light, low volume training is used prior to the next mesocycle. Because of the straight line increase in the intensity of the program, it has been termed linear periodized training. Linear periodization originally evolved from training for single peak performance events such as track and field weightlifting. Thus, consecutive or linear buildup in the training intensity to the peak was used. The volume of the training program in the classic periodization program will gradually decrease in concert with an increase in intensity. The volume-intensity trade-off can be lessened as an individual improves training status. In other words, advanced athletes can tolerate higher volumes of exercise during heavy and very heavy microcycles. A meta-analysis of the research has shown that progressing to an average of 8 sets per muscle group is the optimal dose needed to stimulate muscular strength adaptations and muscular strength in advanced lifters as compared to an average of 3 sets per muscle group for beginners and 4 sets for intermediate lifters. One must be careful not to train with high volumes and heavy weights too quickly. Monitor the stress of the workouts and the total conditioning program. Pushing too hard has the potential for creating a serious overtraining syndrome. Overtraining can compromise progress for weeks or even months, although it takes a great deal of excessive work to produce this type of overtraining effect. Highly motivated individuals can easily make these mistakes out of sheer desire to make gains and see rapid progress in their training. The idea of high volume exercise in the early microcycles is that it may promote the muscle hypertrophy needed to eventually enhance strength in the later phases of training. Thus, the later cycles of training are dependent on the early cycles of training. Programs that attempt to gain strength without developing the needed hypertrophy of muscle tissue are limited in their potential. The increases in the intensity of the periodized program allow for development of the needed nervous system adaptations for enhanced motor unit recruitment. As the program progresses, the heavier weights require that higher threshold motor units become involved in the force production process. The subsequent increase in muscle protein from the early cycle training enhances force production from the motor units. Thus, it's clear to see how the different parts of the 16-week training program are integrated. One mesocycle completion of all the cycles in this 16-week program. A year training program or macrocycle is made up of several mesocycles. Multiple and short mesocycles allow for delineating different musculature upward towards one's genetic limitations. Thus, the theoretical basis for a linear method of periodization consists of developing the body with a sequential loading from light to heavy, from high volume to low volume, thereby addressing the goals of the program for the training cycle while providing active rest at the completion of the mesocycle. This is repeated again and again with each mesocycle, and progress is made in the training program over an entire microcycle. And here you see this is an example of a classic linear periodized program using 4-week microcycles. Microcycle 1 is 4 weeks in duration, and you're doing 3 to 5 sets of 12 to 15 repetitions, so you're working on hypertrophy here. Microcycle 2 is 4 weeks, 4 to 5 sets of 8 to 10 repetitions, so you could be working it still is a little bit of hypertrophy, but there could be some strength gains there as well. And microcycle 3 is 3 to 4 sets of 4 to 6 repetitions. And here you're definitely working on strength. Microcycle 2, you're working on power as well. And microcycle 4, another 4 weeks, it's 3 to 5 sets of 1 to 3 repetitions. Here you're working more on strength. So you're going heavy at this point. And then microcycle 5 is 2 weeks active recovery. Still want them to be active, just not necessarily lifting. They can be doing some cardio and then some flexibility, some things along that line. A twist on traditional linear periodization is termed reverse linear periodization. As the name states, it is a technique that allows the tenets of a linear periodization for volume and strength. However, it is in the reverse order. One study has shown that this type of periodization is beneficial when muscular endurance is the primary program outcome. More recently, the concept of nonlinear periodized training programs, also called daily undulated periodization or DUP, has been developed to maintain variation in the training stimulus. Nonlinear periodized training enhances program implementation because it is flexible and can accommodate schedule, business, or competitive demands placed on the individual. The nonlinear program allows variation in the intensity and volume within each week over the course of the training period of about 12 weeks. Active rest is then taken after the 12-week mesocycle. The change in the intensity and volume of training will vary within the cycle, which could be up to 7 to 14 days. An example of a nonlinear periodized training program over a 12-week mesocycle is shown in table 14.6, coming up next. So here, this is an example of a linear periodized training protocol. So Monday, you're doing one set of 12 to 15 repetitions, so working more on muscular endurance. Wednesday is 3 sets of 8 to 10 hypertrophy. And then Friday is 4 sets of 4 to 6 reps, so more strength. And then Monday would be your power day the next week, where you're doing 6 sets of 3 reps at 30 to 45% of 1 RM using power exercises such as hang pulls or plyometrics. One of the new advances in periodization is called unplanned nonlinear periodization. The name is somewhat of a misnomer, as an overall plan is developed for a 12-week mesocycle, but the actual day that a given workout will be performed is based on the readiness to train. Thus, it is also termed flexible nonlinear periodization. In unplanned or flexible nonlinear periodization, a workout plan is set for the mesocycle, but deciding what workout is to be done on what day is left to the fitness professional, who will base it on the client's fatigue level, psychological state, or fitness, to use only the most optimal workout that can be performed on a given day. In this model, the training session category of light, moderate, power, or heavy is prescribed on the basis of the physiological ability of the state of the client at the time of the session. Thus, if the client's very fatigued before a particular exercise session, some workouts would not be prescribed. For example, a power training or plyometric training day or high volume, low rest training day would not be a good choice because fatigue would reduce the workout quality. After a specific workout is completed, it is checked off in the major planning matrix for the 12-week mesocycle. Again, the goal for any mesocycle in this type of nonlinear periodization is to complete each planned workout rather than X number of weeks. In any periodization model, it is the primary exercises that are typically periodized, but one can also use a 2-cycle periodized program to vary the small muscle group exercises. For example, in the tricep pushdown, one could rotate between the moderate 8 to 10 repetitions and the heavy 4 to 6 repetition maximum cycle intensities. This would provide not only the hypertrophy needed for such isolated muscles of a joint, but also the strength needed to support heavier workouts of the large muscle groups. In summary, different approaches can be used to periodize a resistance training program. Programs can be linear, reverse linear, non-linear, or daily undulating, or unplanned flexible non-linear schedules. Periodized programs are more effective than constant intensity training programs for increasing strength. Effective periodization is accomplished by melding specific program goals such as strength, program or hypertrophy, muscular endurance, or some combination, with appropriate variations in volume, intensity, and frequency of training. The key to workout success is variation, and different periodization approaches can be used to accomplish this training need. The level of fitness and resistance training experience of the clients is perhaps the most important factor to be considered when designing a resistance training program. Resistance exercise can place a large stress on the body, and certain exercises require high levels of skill to avoid injury. Thus, exercise technique is the most important aspect of resistance training for beginners. At the beginning of the training program, correct technique should be significantly emphasized, and the resistance and volume should be kept low. As a fitness professional works with clients, it is important to encourage and motivate them, as well as to provide innovative, optimal, individualized resistance training programs. Clients hire fitness professionals for a variety of reasons. Many clients hire personal trainers because they feel they need constant guidance. In addition, personal trainers provide them with a support system. Most importantly, clients desire to hire professionals with training and knowledge in conditioning science. They want a professional to help them perform exercises properly and who understands exercise prescription to allow them to achieve their personal goals and objectives. For some clients, it's an important part of their sports conditioning program. Ultimately, the fitness professional must form a special relationship with each and every client that is based on professionalism and trust and openness. Clients should feel that their personal trainer or fitness professional genuinely cares about them and is personally vested in helping them achieve their goals. Clients expect their personal trainer or fitness professional to be a source of knowledge and an educator. Clients expect their fitness professional to be able to explain things or answer the question why. Thus, clients appreciate having their fitness professional explain the reason why they are doing a particular exercise or combination of sets and reps in their program. Personal training has been found to be superior to unsupervised training, even for people who understand resistance training. Fitness professionals should convey the specific benefits of resistance training, including increases in strength, muscle mass, and bone mass, particularly to clients who may be skeptical about why resistance training is important. Some uneducated clients may have a false impression of the outcomes from resistance training or on how to go about attaining optimal gains. Some men may do too much of one exercise, such as bicep curls, trying to get huge, thereby creating muscular imbalance, or women may hold back from performing any heavy loading because of the fear of getting big muscles. These mistakes may at best diminish the gains that could be realized with resistance training, and at worst, result in serious overtraining or acute injury. Clients consider fitness professional experts and will often want to hear their opinion on fads facing the fitness industry. Often, clients' knowledge of resistance training comes from infomercials or magazine advertisements. Fitness professionals need to stay up to date with the scientific literature in order to provide accurate information and current research to their clients. Additionally, personal trainers should develop a network of experts who can act as resources for when clients ask questions that the personal trainer doesn't know. It is also best to admit you do not know the answer than conveying potentially inaccurate information. Furthermore, because fitness professionals are required to obtain continuing education credits to maintain their certifications, staying current is critical to success. A key aspect in fitness and personal training is the ability to demonstrate a given lift or technique. Providing the client with good visual representation of the lift will allow the client to then replicate the movement pattern. The personal trainer or fitness professional should demonstrate each lift with proper form with a verbal explanation of the lift or technique, and then actually physically demonstrate proper form of the given lift. Resistance training often requires the personal trainer have physical contact with the client to ensure correct positioning, fit, and setup of a machine, and proper technique in both machine and free weight exercises. Personal trainers should take time to explain to clients the spotting procedures in resistance training and the level of physical interaction required. Always ask your clients before physically touching them to ensure that they are comfortable with it. For example, when performing elbow extension exercises, it is sometimes helpful for the fitness professional to place his or her hands on the client's elbow as a reminder to keep the elbow from pointing outward. In this case, explain to the client, I'm going to put my hands on your elbows to remind you to keep them from pointing outward. Is this okay with you? In most cases, clients will have no problem with this physical contact, but it is always better to ask than to assume. Resistance training often requires that the personal trainer have physical contact with the client to ensure correct positioning. Let's just repeat. Good spotting technique is vital for a safe resistance training program. Fitness professionals must understand the movement technique of every exercise and how to position clients to get the proper anatomical positioning throughout the exercises. In addition, personal trainers need to know where to position themselves to spot appropriately for each exercise. The goal of correct spotting is to prevent injury. A lifter should always have an exercise spotted, and the personal trainer must mediate this process, alone or with additional help. A checklist for the personal trainer or fitness professional is to make sure that you know proper exercise technique, be able to demonstrate it, know proper spotting technique, and be sure you're strong enough to assist the lifter with the resistance being used, or make sure that you get help. Know how many repetitions the lifter intends to do, so make sure that you are communicating. Find out, ask them how many reps they're planning on doing. Be attentive to the lifter at all times. You got to put your cell phones away. And stop lifting if exercise technique is incorrect or they break form. And that is the end of our session today. I look forward to talking to you again. We have one more part in chapter 14. I look forward to talking to you soon. Have a good day.